A lovely day in the Northeast. Something, well, at least for the last 5 days or so, this is something you haven't seen in a while. But beware because gloom and doom loom for the Friday and maybe even into the first part of Saturday. We shall see. However, there will
I
be
don't
a.
care. I don't care.
I know
Let
you
it
don't.
let it let it rain for the next 40 days. I'm done.
Yes.
I'm done with this. It doesn't seem like we have any kind of a break. Oh yeah,
I
today was nice.
I know we haven't started the show yet. I'm still in the middle of the open.
Here's the payoff: one nice day for every five
I
lousy
can
gloomy.
I can I finish my open first?
No, I'm done.
Well,
See
Joe
you
just said one nice day for every 5 days it rains. Well, now we could turn that around and say a day or so of gloom and doom to maybe 5 nice days that will follow beginning on Sunday. We will
That's
of
not.
we will of course discuss this with such incredible detail that it'll make your hair stand on end. We're also going to talk about Tropical Storm Philippe, who is doing some odd things out in the Atlantic with another tropical system that's right close by. A lot of interesting things on the satellite. And we might, Joe, we just might, if you're good, we may show Tropical Storm Agnes. Okay. I'm not Tropical Storm Agnes. I'm sorry, Storm Agnes, which is now which is impacting Ireland and Britain. So we will just talk about it all tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show, which of course is brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York, in southwest Suffolk County on Long Island. Write it down. They've got mulch, topsoil, sand, and of course this winter they have salt, and want to make sure your house is able to stand up to any kind of storm, be it tropical or non-tropical. Get over to Omni 631-756-1125. Nowhere can you find better prices, and the website is
OmniTrueValue.com.
Tempest by WeatherFlow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system and join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is pinned to the top of the chat board. It's also on the descriptor to this video. And if you do make a purchase on the Tempest website, no matter what it is, use the coupon code I want a weather station. And if you pound the table, I want a weather
I
station.
want a weather station. I
Gotta,
want it now.
oh, your audio is like blowing me away. But if you do, you will get.
You'll get 10% off.
Rayo's not in a good mood because he's looking at models and freaking out because there's this blob of heavy rain that is covering his
It's going to
house.
park itself right over my house on Friday afternoon.
Well, you know, the little guy that draws the models, Joe, he was working hard late this afternoon on the 18C run, and he said, I'm coming after you, Mr. Rayo.
I'm sure he is.
And meanwhile, I haven't seen a drop of rain here in 9 days, and it's been delightful. I don't think it got out of the 60s today for a high because we had more clouds around, so that kind of kept the sun out. Here in North Georgia, where the autumns are beautiful and the leaves are already trickling down from the trees. By the way, this morning in the Northeast, very chilly temperatures in some places. I saw Barry Goldberg, who's one of our occasional pop-ups here on the chat board and usually watches the show after it's done, got down to 40 this morning in Caldwell.
Well, we got down to 44 here in Putnam Valley this morning. I think it's about as cold or as chilly as we have gotten so far this autumn season.
Well, you're ahead of me now because so you got to 45 before I did. If we want to use roundish numbers. So you got to 45 before I did because my low a couple of nights ago was 46.4.
Lovely.
So, yes. So, gloom and doom is taking a break, and I think we should be generally okay tomorrow, although I think we'll probably see some clouds start to roll in at some point. And then we've got some rain to deal with for Friday, and It's not going to be an even distribution, though, because there are going to be some places in the scope of eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England, which is our general coverage area, though we do often talk about other places. But in our general coverage area, there might be some places that really don't see much in the way of rain out of this, and on the other hand, there might be some places that might see, I don't know, maybe an inch or two, if you want to if you want to go for it.
Well, the thing that gets me is that, we went from Saturday through midday yesterday with cloudy, dreary, dank looking weather. And the skies finally began to clear. We got to see the sun. Today was a beautiful day. Had 2.54 inches of rain from Saturday through early yesterday morning. And I said, okay, that's it. We've got another system coming on Friday, but that's just going to give us a glancing blow. I mean, it looks like the coastal areas we're going to get some significant rain. Anyway, call a quarter of an inch significant. But now, looking at the latest guidance, it is suggesting that we may get a lot more than just a quarter of an inch and a lot more than just the coast. I mean, I'm looking at, as you just pointed out, Joe, that there could be an area on Friday afternoon of locally heavy rain. Mm-hmm. And it looks like if you take the models at face value, it's going to be right over my house on Friday. I can't deal with this anymore.
I know.
I'm working on like 10 inches of rain this month.
I know, and I'm working. I'm at an inch and a half for the entire month. So I actually really wish it would rain here because it is getting a little bit dry, and I want my perennials to be in good shape to go into the cold winter months. And by the way, speaking of which, kind of interesting the way the overall pattern breaks down, because I'm starting to feel confident on the idea that start next Sunday and going into probably much of not all of next week, we could have, and this happens in the fall where you do get these these nice long dry stretches, so you might get one next week, but the pattern is kind of pointing to a colder pattern as we go into the middle part of the month of October. I was kind of not that I was surprised about it, but I guess the fact that there's some consistency in the model runs lately, especially the GFS, about the flow from Canada maybe finally getting ready to open up and bring down some cooler air into the east. And by the way, speaking of gloom and doom, Joe, Sal Blandino is on the chat board right now, and he actually takes your side on this.
Hi, Sal.
Yes, Sal wrote. Sal left a message on one of the videos. Said, Joe, couldn't it be that this whole rain, this rain area for Friday will fall apart and it'll turn out to be nice, and it'll turn out to be nice for Friday? And I basically gave him a one-word answer: no. Welcome to everybody. We love you, Sal. We do. Welcome to everybody on the chat board, and welcome to those of you who are not on the chat board but are cleverly lurking in the background here tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show. We're on Monday through Thursdays at 7:35. I'm sorry, Sunday through Thursday at 7:35. And we're off on Fridays and Saturdays unless there's a storm around. So just to give everybody a little bit of a heads up, tomorrow, we're planning to go on as usual tomorrow. However, there is a chance that we may have to postpone tomorrow night's show. Okay, so just letting you know about that ahead of time. So if we do that, are you good for Friday? I should have asked you this off camera.
Well, unless I'm
drowning. Okay, as long as you're not drowning. Yeah.
Unless I'm drowning, unless all of a sudden something happens and I know we'll get water all over the place here with all that heavy.
All right. Well, again, plan on a show tomorrow, but there's a chance that it might not happen. And if it doesn't happen tomorrow, then Joe and I will be on Friday. So we will mark that down. And for those of you who are new, subscribe to my YouTube channel and turn your notifications on so you don't miss one of our almost continuously award-winning broadcasts that we have here on an almost nightly basis. All right, I got the loop up of the satellite, the U.S. satellite loop, and for a change, Joe, the Northeast is looking nice, and skies are generally partly to mostly clear, well, pretty much all the way down into northeastern Virginia and into Delaware and Maryland, and then from there south, and this includes me, a lot of clouds, not very little, if any, rain at all, but just a lot of clouds. All the rain is offshore, and you can see the old frontal boundary, by the way. I mean, it's still out there. So it's just sort of waiting to pivot back a little bit northwestward, which is what it's going to do. And we'll be watching these clouds, I think, on tomorrow, because at some point they are going to start moving up toward the north. And then, of course, the onshore flow, once it sets up, will probably bring in some low clouds in from the east. Meanwhile, gorgeous weather out through most of the west. If you wanted a long stretch of nice weather, you should have gone to Colorado, because I think it's been like 2 straight weeks there where it's been hardly a cloud in the sky, from what I've been told. The forecast looks pretty good out there for a little while longer. And we've got a storm system coming in with some rain in the Pacific Northwest, and we've got a little bit of severe weather going on in parts of the Ohio Valley. You can see some clouds bursting up there into northern Indiana. Joe, the onshore, anytime you get a pattern like this, whenever there's a high to the north, during this time of the year, and of course in the middle and latter part of the spring, it can oftentimes be problematic, and this is one of those times where it's got pretty much a firm hold on the east, and however it pivots determines how much cloud cover you get, how long it lasts, and how much rain, if any, that you're going to get.
And that onshore flow has been persistent, Joe, right on from the weekend, right on into, well, it will continue right on through the end of this week. Mostly east or east-northeasterly winds of varying intensity. Of course, earlier in the week, they were rather strong and rather gusty. They've kind of diminished some since, but they may again get a little gusty again when we get toward the end of the week on Friday. Is that, I don't know what to call it. Okay, I guess you can call it an inverted trough.
Yeah, they haven't analyzed. I got the surface map should come up in a second. So I'm looking at the 21Z map, and the high it's way up there. It's like east of James Bay. There's a 1031 high that's sitting up there, and they have another high center drawn in Maine. And then you start to get into the isobars, the easterly isobars. The first one comes in to southern New Jersey. The next one comes down into North Carolina, and they've got a low analyzed with this long occlusion that extends from eastern North Carolina and then goes straight east out into the Atlantic, goes east of 70. Then they got it turning into a stationary front. And then they've got a gap and then another stationary boundary that runs from, maybe about 31 or 32 degrees north westward into northern Florida, and then crosses out into the Gulf of Mexico. So they got the ocean kind of analyzed a little bit on the weird side, I guess, is the best way to describe it.
And we have actually 2 systems. There's one it looks like an Alberta clipper, if you will, coming in from the west, moving through the Ohio Valley by tomorrow night and early Friday. And we've got that, again, inverted system, that inverted trough offshore with a kind of a double-barrel low-pressure system, one that's somewhere off of the Delmarva shoreline, and that connects to yet another system that's off of the Carolinas. So you have 3 systems that are seemingly converging on our area for the end of this week.
Yeah, the good news is, unless there's a complication, the good news is that it's probably another low is going to try to develop. And oddly enough, this was what models were showing late last week of trying to bring up another coastal low. But at least this one is far enough offshore that it'll do whatever it does, and then it should get out of the way, because everything's going to start to shift a little bit further to the east again, and we could get into a better place as far as the next high is concerned, so that we could cut the onshore flow off And I think that definitely happens for Sunday. I mean, of the 2 weekend days, to me, Sunday looks like the better of the 2 weekend days. And
Agree with
then,
you. Yeah.
yeah, and then next week, much of next week in the eastern part of the United States is going to be, pretty nice and warm.
Yeah. I've got sunny for Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, with temperatures all of those days in the middle to possibly even on Tuesday, upper 70s. And in fact, I wouldn't be surprised if some places in northeastern New Jersey or maybe in New York City proper briefly touch 80 degrees. And I saw the chairman who hit Super Chat, by the way. Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Scott.
He says tomorrow is the average date of the last 80-degree day at Central Park. So long summer. Hi, everyone. That may very well be true. But then again, we could very well be talking about October 2nd, October 3rd. That'll be Monday and Tuesday of next week, flirting with 80.
Yeah, but it should. I don't think it's going to be anything higher than that, from what I'm
No,
seeing.
no.
It shouldn't.
A
It
few
should.
years ago, we actually had temperatures in the low 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Those 2 days, record high temperatures at Central Park. No, we're not going to go that high, but still, the normal high at this time of the year, Joe, at Central Park is about 71, 72. So you make it up close to 80. That's like 6 to 8 degrees above normal. That's pretty darn good.
Sure. Radars are quiet up from Maine, actually pretty much up and down the East Coast with a couple of exceptions. There are a couple of light showers in southeast Georgia. There's some rain that's off the North Carolina coast with that whole mess that's offshore. But even though there's a lot of clouds from Virginia southward, there's not much, if any, rain occurring. Now, there is a little area of showers and maybe even a thunderstorm or two that are rolling through western North Carolina at the moment. And actually, there's one cell that's moving southeastward that's not too far from me. So I'll be curious to see if that holds together. That little complex extends westward from the Tennessee, North Carolina state line to probably right over Chattanooga and points west from there. And we also have some rain in northeastern Florida with a few heavier thunderstorms down to Interstate 4 from Tampa to Orlando. Kind of lines up the whole roadway. So if you're driving east to west or west to east right now on I-4, you're not having fun because you're going to have rain the whole way through. Meanwhile, in Indiana, we've got right over Indianapolis. Looks like there's some thunderstorms going on there now. There's some rain in southeastern Michigan and in around Detroit, and also in the northwest and north central part of Ohio. And we've got bands of showers across Montana, northern Idaho, and into Washington and northwestern Oregon as this system starts to move into the Pacific Northwest. No severe thunderstorm watches are up. However, the Storm Prediction Center has now just issued 11 minutes ago a severe potential severe thunderstorm watch for southernmost Indiana, southeastern Illinois, and northwestern Kentucky. And they say developing thunderstorms will pose a large hail/severe wind threat this evening. Watch issuance is possible, and they rate it as a 40% chance that we could see a severe thunderstorm watch go up there. And you've got general thunderstorms from Texas across the lower Gulf states down to Florida and into parts of the southeast. No severe weather is forecast tomorrow, so we'll jump to the Friday into Saturday time frame where we have a small area of marginal risk from northeastern Nebraska northeastward up into Minnesota. Now, Joe, WPC, who we know lurk in the background here, and they kind of try to sneak a watch of the Joe and Joe Weather Show. They did bulge back the half to 3/4 of an inch of rain all the way back to like I-81 in Pennsylvania and north of just along or north of Route 84 in the Hudson Valley. They've got an inch and a half touching coastal New Jersey and into southeastern New England. So they've actually increased the amount of rain for eastern PA to southern New England. Not much as you go further west. And then, of course, you've got half to 3/4 inch amounts in parts of the Ohio Valley, and that's with what's going on tonight, because you take those two things away, and the rest of the time it would just be dry, considering the kind of pattern that we have going forward.
Well, I think that where I am here in the Lower Hudson Valley, anywhere from 3/4 to 1.25 inches is a pretty fair bet based upon all the latest numbers. And for those of you who are watching us along either the Jersey Shore or across Long Island, anywhere from 1.25 inches to maybe 1.75 inches. And that's, again, considering that just 2 days ago, our thoughts were that, okay, the coastal Jersey and Long Island was going to get maybe about 1/4 to 1/3 of an inch. And where I am, we would just get a glancing blow. All of a sudden now, all of the numbers have tripled or even quadrupled in intensity over the last 24 to 48 hours. And I'm wondering, you often say, Joe, the trend is your friend. What are we going to be looking at tomorrow night? What are these numbers going to go up to tomorrow night? Are they going to actually go beyond, let's say, 2 inches for some areas?
It's not impossible.
Yeah.
It's not impossible.
It's not impossible
Right.
for a plain yellow pumpkin to become a golden carriage.
Well, it's impossible for a
Yes,
plain
right.
yellow pumpkin to become a golden carriage.
Right.
So by the way, the second time in 2 weeks, very similar to what happened last week, where you had this, troughing that went from like Iowa down to the southeast. The only difference is this time is that this cutoff low is not going to drop off the southeast coast and sit over the warm waters and make a tropical storm, almost hurricane, like it just did with Ophelia. Instead, that upper low drops southeastward and then moves eastward and opens up into an open trough and then cuts off again. Friday night, Joe, there's a cutoff low in central Pennsylvania that moves over New Jersey and off the New Jersey coast by Saturday morning. The problem's been that the upper flow in the eastern part of the United States in particular, is very weak. We don't have that Canadian jet somewhere to just sort of kick these things along. So as a result, we got to get this trough out of the way. And the good news is that as this moves off the coast Friday night and Saturday morning, it does actually get kicked out to the east. Then eventually it drops southward. But once it's well enough offshore, it allows a ridge, and you can see it here this is the map for Sunday. There's a rather nice upper high that's building in East Texas. Whoops, come on. There you go. In East Texas and in western New Louisiana, and ridging over the top as this cutoff low that's offshore. I got to use the mouse. I was trying to do this with my finger, and my screen is not cooperating. And then this upper low offshore kind of sort of drifts down to the southwest. So that's good. That's going to be good for the Northeast as far as the weather is concerned. And in fact, that ridge comes into the Northeast. It comes over the Northeast for Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. But, and this is a number of runs in a row now, Joe. Got to look at this deep trough that the GFS drops down next weekend into Minnesota. I mean, this just sort of wrapped up cutoff, and if I widen it out, it's connected all the way up. It's teleconnected all the way up into Canada. At least it was on the left, but I mean, eventually gets there. But you can see what happens here. I mean, this is a pretty interesting feature.
We're at 222 hours, or 200. You're advancing it now to like 258 hours. I mean, we were laughing when we saw that at 384 and saying, "Oh yeah, like that's actually going to happen," but it's still holding on to that.
Yeah, it lost it for a little while, and then suddenly it came back. It came back overnight, and then the 12Z run has it. It has it a little differently in terms of the overall structure. I mean, this is just a wrapped up animal that drops down into the Ohio Valley. But if you go on the 12Z run, I mean, it's every bit. It's just shaped a little differently, but it's got this huge long wave that goes from the North Pole practically all the way down into the south. Well, not quite the North Pole, but northernmost Canada to Greenland, and it comes swings around with a negatively tilted arm into the Northeast, and it has the trough hanging around. We're talking only by day 8 or 9, it's dropping down into the northern plains, and it's very vigorous. And it's, that trough kind of hangs in the eastern part of the United States. This would be a fairly cold, I mean, for this time of year, this is a fairly cold looking upper air that sets up for, say, after next, maybe starting to come in late next weekend, if this is correct.
Well, I can tell you that the CPC, the Climate Prediction Center, has us way above normal in terms of probabilities right through about the 11th of October.
Right, so this is the map that I have up right now is the 13th. Well, it's certainly. Do they have any below? Can you share it?
Sure, I can share anything.
Because I'm just kind of curious as to what they have to the west and to the northwest. So if you would share it, I would be most graciously grateful.
We'll do that right now, as long as you give me sharing capabilities.
I've already have, Joseph.
Well, that's good.
Yes.
Go and get.
Meanwhile, 57 likes so far while you load the map, and thank you for those of you who've hit the like button. Joe and I love it when we get over 100 likes. It puts us in such a good mood. So if you would like the show, hit the like button.
So here's October, and I hope you're seeing what I'm seeing now.
Yes, I am.
Okay, very good. Because sometimes I share and I put stuff up, and you say, "Oh, we had it, now we lost it. Now you got to unshare." No, we're not doing that.
No, we have.
October 3rd to October 7th, you can see, and wow, hang on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That zone right here that you see here, 80 to 90% probability of above normal temperatures.
All right, so this is through next Saturday, the 7th, correct?
Over the 7th. That is correct.
That's next Saturday. Okay.
And you can see that the only place that's showing near or below normal is out in the far west. And the Pacific Northwest is the coolest part of the equation here. Now, if we jump to the 8 to 14 day, come on.
By the way, were these made today?
Yes.
Okay. Go on.
Issued September 27th. Mm-hmm. And you can see that the above normal is still fully entrenched here through October 11th. The below normal area is expanding a little bit from beyond the Pacific Northwest to as far east as, well, western North Dakota and central sections of Wyoming. I mean, what we're seeing on the upper air, Joe, would suggest more of a rapid push from the northern plains toward the northeast. But at least at this point, maybe they're playing it conservatively at the Climate Prediction Center, because they've got it again well above normal.
Well, I predict that the next time they do this map, when's the next update for them? Friday?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow? I think they may change their tune slightly for the 8 to 14 day a little bit. The other thing I would mention too is if you look at I looked at the Mrs. Ensembles, and the ensembles show higher. This is October 9th, which is next Sunday. Okay, so. I'm sorry, next Monday. The above normal heights in the east start to go away after around the 9th or 10th on the ensembles. And I'll go back to the 12Z run because that goes out a little further. And then, they're just about, by the time we get to the latter part of the forecast period, they're just about gone. And then all the higher heights are in the west now. I mean, it's not below normal heights in the east, but it's near normal heights in the east. So it certainly suggests that at the very least, we should start seeing by the middle part of the month, we should start to see temperatures trend back toward normal. The only difference, I don't have the 18Z ensembles, which right now amount to 288 hours. It gets it there faster on this run. Suddenly you've got ridging up in the northwest, and a trough that's setting up along 160, so you can kind of see where it's going. So I think we're going to probably see this evolve, but it certainly suggests that when we get to the middle part of the month, the middle 10 days maybe, we'll start to see some changes to a colder pattern, or at very least a cooler pattern coming into the eastern part of the U.S.
Well, you would like to see that. After all, we're into fall now, and we've had a number of years where the fall weather has been put on hold because the temperatures have been so incredibly mild. It's really incredibly warm.
Yes. So I'll just run it back really quick again because I was having trouble bringing the maps back up. So here's the on the ensembles. You see the higher heights all of next week, so that makes sense. And then we're into next weekend. We start to see those higher heights, the brown area that's in the northeast and eastern Canada begin to shrink. And then that blue area up in Canada, which is going to be driving, the flow from Canada, down into the eastern part of the United States, becomes a little more, maybe entrenched is not the right word, but it becomes a little bit more of a dominating feature around, say, the 10th or the 11th. So, we're going to go in that direction. I feel pretty confident in that. The longer range forecast period as we get into the middle part of October is going to see some colder air dropping into the eastern part of the U.S. Now let's go back short range so you can talk about the gloom, the doom, as we showed you the upper air earlier for what's coming up. Let's show the surface. And here we go. Hang on, let me get there. And okay, so obviously no issues tonight. And you can see, for some reason, the GFS has got this one. It's got light precip like this with the onshore flow. Sometimes that could be an indicator of low clouds coming in for later tomorrow, which is what I'm thinking here with the high going off into the Gulf of Maine. And then it's got rain into New Jersey and eastern Pennsylvania Friday morning. And there's what Joe's screaming about, is that big yellow blotch that's up in the Catskills in the Hudson Valley for Friday afternoon and Friday night. And there's still some lingering rain over Long Island and southeastern New England and southern New England Saturday morning. I kind of think, Joe, it's probably going to take much of the day on Saturday. I'm still going to hold out for the possibility that we could see improving weather conditions sky-wise Saturday afternoon from north to south once that inverted... It might
end up being something like yesterday.
Yeah, something like that, except that there would be some rain around in the morning. And then, of course, by the time we get to Sunday, the high is in Pennsylvania, and the offshore low is way out. It's out here somewhere at about 36.4 and about 67.2. So I don't think we're going to, Sunday's definitely going to be the better of the 2 days. But with a little luck, we might get some improvement Saturday afternoon. And then as we move on to next week, I mean, to me, with a low that's dropping southwestward in the southwest Atlantic and a high that's in Ohio that's sort of ridged up from Texas on up into New England. I mean, this to me just spells nice weather, nice warm early fall weather through all of next week with little, if any, rain at all. You're still going to have an inverted trough off the southeast coast, and you can see some rain comes into the Carolinas late next week, and then you got a front that's out to the west, but we're going to be in good I think we're going to be mostly in good shape certainly through Wednesday. The flow becomes a little more onshore-ish come Thursday, but it might not be onshore enough to cause any problems. And then perhaps by Friday, you start to have to deal with some clouds coming in toward the end of the week. But I think it's looking okay. I think for the most part next week is looking okay.
Enrique Lopez on the chat board says, hey, has anybody had any fall colors yet? The rain usually makes for beautiful colors. I agree, Enrique, unless you go a little overboard. If you have too much rain, that may be, and I'm looking around, all I see around where I am, Joe, I don't see any colors whatsoever. I don't even see green anymore. I see more brown from the leaves that are coming down. It may be that the leaves or the trees may have gotten too waterlogged over the last 6 to 8 weeks.
Well, that could be. I can never find a good satellite picture of Europe or a good satellite loop. Anytime anybody criticizes the Weather Service, I mean, they have provided more weather stuff to people like you and me and to our audience that we can access and show on the air, or you can just access yourself. Then when you go to these, foreign entities trying to get things, in terms of satellite pictures, It's just impossible. Now I've got the GFS. Storm Agnes. I mean, right now, if it's the same storm that I think it is a 988 low that's sitting in southern Scotland, and there's another strong low that's to the west of that that is coming in for Thursday and sweeps across Ireland and England. The gradient there is pretty tight. They were talking about gusts. I guess they must have had this earlier today, where they had gusts of 50 to 60 miles an hour in the Irish Sea. And then you have the second part of this that's going to come through for Thursday into Friday before the weather starts to improve. No snow out of this, by the way. It's a little too early for that. Not even in Norway and Sweden. It's all, there's a little bit of snow there on Friday afternoon in the inland areas there in Norway.
Now, I don't understand here. They're only at Agnes, at the A. Is this the opening to the fall winter season, I guess?
Yeah, I think that's how it works up there. I don't think, honestly, I don't think they've seen any big lows come crashing into England and Scotland from even from some of these recurring tropical cyclones. They haven't really held together as they've moved across the Atlantic. So there's been they've had neither named storms or post-tropical storms with names with hurricane center names attached to them. So this is probably the first one of the fall season.
Well, as I said at the very beginning, if it's Agnes, it must be Moorhead.
Or it could be, Alice's sister from the Honeymooners.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Now we've got Tropical Storm Philippe and also a tropical wave to the southwest that's probably going to become a tropical depression. This is kind of interesting, Joe, because we've seen this happen from time to time where you get two weather systems very close by. Now, oddly enough, the Philippe, which has been forecast to recurve for days and days now, has refused to do so because it's been more of a sheared system. So instead, it's been moving. It moved almost straight westerly up until today, and right now it doesn't seem to be moving very much at all. But we're seeing the thunderstorms kind of blowing up there on the enhanced satellite view, and also you could see to the southeast of that is what could eventually wind up being at least a tropical depression that will develop. But these two systems are very, very close together, so I think we could have a situation where one is going to pivot around the other, and then eventually one is going to absorb the other. So I'm betting that eventually Philippe will absorb whatever the R storm is. I don't know what the name is. It would be a female name. So right. So whatever the R storm is, but I think eventually that's what will probably happen, that the two systems, one will wind up absorbing the other. And in fact, what's also interesting, and the guidance, by the way, is just all over the place. We'll show you in a moment, but you can see it here on the GFS, and I'll bring, just show you. This is what, here is Philippe.
Rena.
What is it? Rena?
Rena.
Right, and this is the little low that they're forecasting for this to maybe become a depression or a tropical storm. But if you watch what happens, and this is a bit of a change from the guidance, Philippe actually goes stationary tomorrow and Friday, and then starts drifting southward, and it deepens on the GFS, Joe, to a 955. And the system that's Rena, that really small low, goes northward and then northwestward, just completely, it's caught inside one of the isobars. And then it goes northwestward, and eventually it just winds up getting absorbed by Philippe, which turns straight north and then goes, northeastward on the GFS as a hurricane to the east. And then it stalls out, then it turns northwestward, and then it just kind of meanders away, and then eventually finds its way up into the North Atlantic. Who knows if that's correct? But I want to just show you I was looking at the intensity guidance, and this was really helpful. Okay, this was truly. Oops, that's the wrong one. This was truly helpful. So here's the intensity guidance. So take your choice, Joe. As soon as it loads, you'll see what I'm talking about, and I'll make it big I know you're behind on the screen, but you'll catch up soon.
Yeah.
The intensity guidance, you've got two models that weaken Philippe basically to an open wave. Okay. You've got one, two, three, four, five models that keep it as a tropical storm, ranging from minimal to high-end tropical storm. Then you've got a bunch of models that make it to between a category 1 and a category 2, and you've got two models, the ship's model, which has been around forever, and I can't see what that says. The HFAL model has it almost as a category 4 hurricane in 108 hours. So, I mean, talk about running the gambit from A to Z. There's something here for everybody in terms of intensity.
It's like somebody took a can of paint and just splattered it against the wall, and wherever it lands, it lands.
Right, and the Hurricane Center, by the way, just keeps it as a tropical storm, takes it basically straight westward over the Northern Leeward Islands, and then of course they make it post-tropical when it reaches the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico, which we know they love to do that. And the model guidance is, most of them take it straight west, which is what the European does. It just basically, the European has exactly the opposite of the GFS. The European weakens this to an open wave, and the system that's to the southeast, Rena, becomes the dominant feature. And you can see these tracks are kind of all over the place.
Right. I mean, look at this. What, the AVNI going like straight north or northeast?
Right.
You got like the lion's share of like the UK X1, the EGRI. They're taking it like straight west.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's nuts. It's nuts. Look, the bottom line is it's not unless something really weird were to happen, it isn't coming to the United States. And I guess the folks in the Leeward Islands will probably need to pay attention to it in case it does strengthen to a Cat 2 or a Cat 3 and then decides to do something crazy on its track, which is, not impossible given the weakish flow that we have out in the Atlantic anyway. So
don't forget Dora in the Pacific. That was the storm that nobody could figure out what it was going to do.
Right.
And that was also led to the wildfires in Maui. But I mean, we both said that eventually the National Hurricane Center and even the Central Pacific Hurricane Center just threw up their arms and said, "Well, we don't know. We
sometimes sometimes that's the best thing to do. If you don't know, you don't know. The guidance is all over the place, and you're dealing with a situation where the upper flow has got no push. What are you supposed to do?
It's like that snowstorm in December of 1988 that was totally missed by all these forecasters. And our dear friend Tom Grant, in his explanation, said there was a point during this storm where we suddenly stopped being forecasters and just simply became observers.
Yeah, well, I mean, at the end of the day, sometimes that's what it takes. By the way, that reminded me, I've been meaning to mention this for about 10 days, and I kept forgetting. But now that it just suddenly popped into my head, I should bring this up. This is the first time there are 7 hurricane basins, the designated hurricane basins in the world: the Atlantic, the East Pacific, the Central Pacific, the West Pacific. I think there's 2 of them in the Indian Ocean, and then there's 1 or 2 for Australia. This is the first time that every basin has seen a Category 5 hurricane in a calendar year.
Wow.
Yeah, so there's that.
I don't know if you could say that's pretty good, but that's
no, but it's an interesting, it's interesting that all the basins, and oddly enough, if this were supposed to be an El Nino year, and we've noted how the Atlantic is far outpacing the Pacific, the Eastern Pacific. The Eastern Pacific should be up to the R storm. Instead, they just got through the K storm, and we're about to go to the R storm here. So
we only got 4. I think we only have 4 names left on the list.
Well, you know what? It's September 27th. It's Alan Casper's birthday. Happy birthday, Alan. And it is quite possible. I mean, it's certainly possible that we could get another, 3 or 4 names out of the way between now and the end of hurricane season.
Yeah.
And then we have to go to the alternate list. We don't do the Greek alphabet anymore.
Right.
Okay, so who has Briller Jeopardy tonight?
I think you do.
I think you're right. 76 likes, Joe. We're 24 short of 100 tonight. So, those of you who haven't hit the like button yet, it would make us really happy if you did. And here we go. So, tonight's Briller Jeopardy will be dealing with average low temperatures in the month of September. Average low temperatures in the month of September for the following cities. I will put the city down on the chat board, okay? And after I put the city down on the chat board, you may answer. This way, we're not mixing numbers all over the place. So the first city, Joe, is the city that lies about a 2-hour drive to the southwest of me, and that is Atlanta, Georgia. Atlanta, Georgia.
Well, low temperatures.
Low temperatures.
For September.
For September, correct.
Well, how about 69?
How about 69? Well, Keith James II says 58. Now, that might be better for me, Keith, up here in North Georgia, but a little too low for Atlanta. Kenneth Rosenberg at 64. Michael McGuire at 62. Robert Hill is close at 65. Paul Roman is close at 67. But Maggie P has hit it, Joe, at 66. 66 is the average low temperature for the month of September.
66 WNBC.
Which no longer exists. Baltimore. Baltimore, Maryland.
How about 57?
How about 57? Well, Rick B says 55. Tyler Fienga says 60. 62 for Michael McGuire, but Helen Bertona and Alan Rupa have already hit it at 59. 59 for Baltimore. Now we'll just go to the mile-high city, Denver. I know I spelt it wrong. Denver, Colorado is our next city, Joe. What do you say?
Denver, Colorado. How about 45?
How about 45? Well, Tim, also known as Latex Dreams, is at 42. Alan Rupa says 58. Maggie P says 50. Helen Bertona, 57. Robert Hill, 52. Patrick Darcy, Joe. Patrick Darcy and Rich Rothmansky both hitting it. And Sal Blandino. Oh, my God. Sal Blandino is playing along. I am just so honored. 48. See, Sal, you need to go to Denver where it hasn't rained. It's been blue sky and sunshine for the last 10 days in a row. 48. 48. Okay, the next city is S-O-N. Hold on, I'm just typing it up. Jacksonville, Florida. Jacksonville, Florida.
How about 67?
How about 67? Keith James says 68. Anthony Sparacchio says 70. Michael McGuire says 72. Robert Hill says 70. Tyler Fienga, 69. Paul Roman, 66. Enrique Lopez and Frank Karajat at 71. Lou Alessi at 75 and Patrick Darcy at 75 are oh so close, but it's our Miss Spallerite and Maggie P who have hit it, Joe, at 74. Now, the last one tonight is the City of Angels, Los Angeles.
Los Angeles. He walks again by night.
Yes, Los Angeles.
Any of you out there who are Nick Danger fans, from the Fire Sign Theater, you know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So, Los Angeles, how about 66?
Well, Rick B says 63. Alan Rupa says 62. Kenneth Rosenberg said 63. Anthony Sparaccio's too high at 75. John Melander at 65. Robert Hill at 58. Michael McGuire at 60. Sal Blandino at 70. Paul Roman at 68. However, Rich Rothmansky, Frank R are on the nose. Let me make sure there's a few others. And Joe Z and Patrick Darcy. I'm sorry, not Joe Z. You're too high. But Patrick Darcy joins the others at 64. 64. Yes. 64.
And Miss Fowlerite, I'm glad to see that you are a Fire Sign Theater fan. You're probably the only person on the list, aside from myself, who enjoys Fire Sign Theater. The Nick Danger, of course, and of course also the Giant Toad Supermarket.
Oh God!
And you know Joe, what their motto is at the Giant Toad, right?
I have no idea.
Drop your load on the Giant Toad.
Oh my Lord!
Save on Peach Pits this week only. See our boy at the back.
Anthony wants to know why you and I are reversed. Oh, I moved myself. I thought I put myself on the left side. I did. And somehow it got switched to the right side. Okay, now no, it won't let me switch. That's real weird. Hold on. Okay. I just switched myself to the left side. Okay, now we're all right. I switched this at the beginning, but somewhere in there it got switched back. I'm not sure. Enrique Lopez, Joe, just hit Super Chat. Thank you, Enrique.
Yes.
And the Joe and Joe Weather Show tonight, as always, brought to you by Tempest by Weatherflow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system and join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is pinned to the top of the chat board. It's also on the descriptor to this video. And if you use the coupon code IWantAWeatherStation, you'll get
10% off.
And by the way, if you'd like, also on the descriptor to this video is a link to Amazon. So if you shop on Amazon, whatever it is you buy, if you go through the referral link that's on the Joe and Joe Weather Show, well, you don't get a discount, but it helps us out. So if you like to contribute and you shop on Amazon, use the Amazon referral link that's on the descriptor to this video. And our show is also brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York. 631-756-1125 is the telephone number for the best prices in town. The website is
OmniTrueValue.com. And Joe, I guess we'll find out if we're going to be here tomorrow night or not. But in any case, thank you to the chairman, to Leon Probitsky and Enrique Lopez for hitting Super Chat tonight. We appreciate it.
And we will see you again. A good chance we'll be on tomorrow. Small chance that we won't. If we're not on tomorrow, we'll be on Friday as Joe floats away in his canoe. All right?
We'll see.
Good night, everybody.
Night.